What it do, KT Teev family? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools. They'll distribute your podcast for you, and you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So do something for me today. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. This is KT for KT TV, signing out. And today I chose not to let anything win, but my drive to get me to the top.
Frank Lee made the beat.
What it do, KT TV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with another episode of the Daily K Podcast. And on today's episode, we have scientist, author, CEO, Mrs. Danielle McGoat. How you doing today, Miss McGoat?
I am doing okay. I'm doing pretty good.
I want to say thank you for taking some time out of the schedule. The book is going. You're doing such a great job, and also just being a scientist, so somebody who's busy in your field. So just thank you for taking a few minutes for me.
I want to thank you for having me, honestly. I'm very happy to share my story with the world. It's about time for it.
There we go. And so before we jump into things, I want to know, how have you been doing during the pandemic and staying safe?
That's a really good question. So, it's been an interesting year for me, I'm sure for many. And, I advanced this year to an exceptional role in the field that I was in. And at the same time, within the next 4 months from that time, declined because of COVID-19. And so that really gave me some time for myself and allowed me to transition into a different industries that I only dreamt about, when I was working in the field that I was working in before. And, honestly, that downtime really helped me significantly from a mental and a spiritual aspect, because when you're working in an environment that is constant stress, constant deadlines, constant, I would say, less than suitable behavior around you every day, it's a lot of wear and tear on you. And you don't realize it until you come out of that environment, Man. Yeah.
And so as we look at a little bit about you and your background, can you give us a little bit of that? And what even pushed you to get into science in the first place?
That's also another good question, because I used to get that a lot. When I first moved to Houston, people were like, "You're a geo, what?" I always got that look. And, it's funny because last year our company was bought out by a different company. And there were actually more Black people at this particular company that I'm mentioning than ever before. And the first thing that a few Black guys came up to say to me was like, wait, are you African American? I'm like, yeah, I'm African American. He was like, oh, okay. So, you're a unicorn, right? And I said, oh, I didn't know. And so, it was interesting to hear somebody actually several people walk up to me and say that. And it also solidified something to me, is that there aren't a lot of African American females doing what I was doing. I was actually a geophysicist for the last 11 years, of my adult life. And it was a super fun job. I mean, it was just something that you would never imagine, so what you think it is, that's exactly what it is and more. But, unfortunately, like I said before, certain people can bring the whole mood down for your parade. So let me answer your question. I just wanted to put that out there first. As far back as I can remember, I've always had a true passion for space. I am a space head. And no, I don't care anything about Star Wars. I like it, but I'm not one of those fanatics that go dress up, for Comic-Con or whatever it's called. Don't get mad at me, guys, the ones that are like super fans of that. But I'm not one of those people. But I do enjoy studying and learning about space, galaxy formations. Like, I know the black hole equation. People are like, there's an equation for that. Yeah, there is. I'm into that kind of stuff. And even as a little kid, I grew up in Oak Cliff. And then for people who aren't familiar, that's the south part of Dallas. It's not South Dallas, but it's more of the very South Dallas. South Dallas isn't technically South. I guess it's the inner city South. but we're further out suburban South, if that makes sense to you. And so there was a lot of, darkness. We didn't have as much light pollution, so I could really see the stars very well at night. And it was very soothing for me as a child, and maybe I'm just different. I don't know. Because like they said, maybe I'm just a unicorn, but I really enjoyed the ambiance, the quietness, the peace of mind, even at that age. And, when I was a junior at South Oak Cliff High School, shout out to SOC, for people who don't know, that is a high school back then that wasn't credible for their academia. Let me tell you that. And so, but I chose to go there for a reason. One reason was because at the time, my grandparents were taking care of me. They were much older. I couldn't see myself bothering my grandfather to drive me all the way downtown to Townview Magnet Center, to a magnet school. I said, I'll just take what I have and work with that. I'm a smart girl. I'll figure it out. And also, too, I was able to stay with my friends. Who doesn't want to stay with their friends in high school? So my junior year at SOC, I entered a program called the Texas Aerospace Scholars Program. And it changed my life, honestly. And it's so funny because I had a school counselor that called me into the office and said, hey, we have a program available, but, I want to offer it to the top, 5% first. I was actually top 10%. They had to offer it to the top 5 first. They weren't interested. And I was like, oh, y'all crazy? This is an opportunity. So for people who don't know what that program is, that's a program directly linked to NASA. So the only requirements that we had to commit to is to complete 12 assignments. And I think each assignment was due 1 per month. And within each assignment, you just had to study the topics that were given. So there were topics like, lunar base building and modeling. You had to create from scratch. I remember using paint to create a moon base, draw my little astronauts, my tank and life support systems, all that. It was so cool. So all NASA was asking us to do as children is just to use your creativity so they could turn that creativity one day into reality. And so I thought that was the coolest opportunity, right? Here I am, this little Black girl at South Oak Cliff High School, given the opportunity to go to NASA for a week and to present, to these astronauts, to these NASA officials. These are government officials, So the first question I asked when I made it there, I completed my assignments and I passed because you had to complete and pass each assignment. And then they give you the right to, they buy your airplane or your round trip drive back and forth from wherever you came from to Houston. And so I got it. And I was proud of myself. I'm not going to lie to you. And I went down there for a week. And I remember saying to myself, man, these people wake up early. They were up and before the sun rose. And we saw some cool things. As a kid, I was probably 16 years old at the time. I was with a lot of other kids, that weren't necessarily geeks, but they liked space and they were committed. So I remember one day we woke up at 4 a.m. just to watch a rocket launch. And I was like, 4 a.m., I was falling asleep, but I was excited to be there.
So now into science, but not only a scientist, you're an author as well. Talk about the book, drop the name of the book, and where did you find this inspiration?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. First of all, let me tell you, the title of the book is Female Minority Report. And I found the inspiration to write this book just purely based on my experience. Coming out of UT Arlington is the first university that I graduated from. It was a lot of diversity there. And then, when you're interacting with the student base, it's not the same as being in the corporate world or working at a job. When you're working at a job, you have to be a team player. You have to work within a team. You have to communicate effectively. All of these things are necessary so that the entire company is successful. And so when you're in college, you don't really get a taste of that. You get an idea, of the real world, especially if you came from an area that was predominantly Black.
For all of your hair needs, go to 365 Glam Hair. 365 Glam Hair has beautiful 100% raw Indian hair on hand. They provide fast shipping with exceptional customer service. Their bundles are guaranteed to be soft, bouncy, shiny, with no tangling and minimal shedding. 365 Glam Hair is offering a new promo in honor of all HBCUs that ends November 30th at midnight. 15% off your purchase with code HBCULOVE. Check out their social media at 365 Glam Hair for photos and upcoming Black Friday promotions. Tell them KT sent you.
But you don't understand how the world views you just yet, until you're sitting right next to someone who's never been around your kind, if that makes any kind of sense. So, it just made me pose the question, what does it mean to be Black in America? And then the second question I asked myself as I'm getting ready to write this book, and I started last summer on it, I said, well, what does it mean being a Black woman in an Anglo male dominated industry? Like, what have I experienced, and how can I pad or create a path for people just like me in the future? Because there's going to be more unicorns, so that's what inspired me to write my book, Female Minority Report.
And we think about African American women in corporate America or in, a lot of male dominated fields. And we look at potentially getting ready to have an African American woman vice president. So when you think about that book, you think about the struggles. What does that mean to you in the realm of things?
Absolutely. So let me be completely transparent. It means something, but will it mean more, when this person gets into office and actually addresses the issues directly on? That's something that we have to stay true to. These are real issues in the African American community that we see playing out on TV through protests, police brutality. We see it in movies. People are making movies. They're trying to show you in so many different forms that there is still a real issue. And so, I have to respect people who do not shy away from transparency because in times like this right now, it's not difficult, to see that nothing has really changed in the last 40 to 50 years. You think back in 1965 when James Baldwin was standing on a podium in front of all these white men who gave him a standing ovation because he's here addressing the very issues that plague society this very day. He mentioned police brutality, racial wage gaps. He didn't really get into the gender wage gaps like I kind of address in my book, but he talked about these discrepancies and racial disparities to a degree that they couldn't do anything but stand up and clap. But that to me is not even enough. So yes, you have respect for one Black man who was a poet, who was an author, who was a philanthropist, and that's awesome. But let that reflect and resonate throughout society for every Black person. And I don't think that these people have gotten the message, those who still have that level of hate, inside of them. So let me answer this question in full. So while I'm proud of each stride that our country takes, it's important, that we address directly these issues at hand and we do not tiptoe, like we've been doing around the obvious. Because, people who believe the same, should use these platforms to educate. I don't want to see people muddy the water any more than what it's already been muddied, because we need people to know how we feel. Because in order for us to make any type of true change, we first have to acknowledge that there's a problem. So then we can start working on a solution.
As you were writing this book, were there any instances that you had where you was like, you know what? I got to stop what I'm doing and this is going in the book?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think this is in chapter 1 of my book. I open it up and I just run out the gate, just being honest about who I am as a person. I want people to be able to relate better to the African American queen. I don't want people to be so intimidated, but just know you guys can't run over us. We have a voice and we want to be heard. Same thing applies for my kings. Don't disrespect them. Don't harm them. Because here's the thing, every human has a right to happiness. And, I feel like for the longest, our community has been plagued with so much hate and people who want to control our narrative. And it's time to shift. It's time to change. It's time for America and the world to listen to us now. We've listened to everything that everybody has to say. And so let me answer your question. So there's something that I wanted to point out in the book where I said, hey, I was writing it and I said, no, let me erase this and go back and write something else. And it was my interaction that I had with one of my coworkers. And this person was asking a lot of personal questions, and if you're not a Black person, I'm gonna let you know something about Black people. We are very private, especially at work. If we work with you, you're just our coworker, and that's it. Don't dig too deep into our business. That's speaking for me, my opinion. I can't speak for my entire race, but I think that applies at least to 60% of us. So that's kind of what happened. He's asking, like, if I put water on your hair, what's gonna happen? These type of questions are just not even appropriate for work. And so I had to take a few cursing words out of my book because I wanted to be readable for at least a young teenager. And so in that moment, if you can imagine being a physical person in that moment in front of all your coworkers, you're just trying to eat your lunch and someone's asking you about your hair, it just made me feel like I am not a museum experiment or exhibit. Treat me like a human being and get out of my business. Is that woman talk?
That sounds like I've talked to people and they've been through that situation, but so that's the awesomeness and the realness of the book, just just that pinpoint right there is a real live issue for so many women, so to hear your experience and probably the way you spin it, I might have to order me a copy right here.
Please,
so,
a few.
Now, moving forward, you're the CEO of Sisters Talk. So what is this organization about and what do you all can bring to the community?
Oh, great question. So let me tell you how it was formed. Sisters Talk is my organization that I formed back in June of 2019. And I was inspired to create this organization because of my late cousin. God rest her soul. She passed away this year, September 18th. And she was going through a divorce at the time. She had a lot of issues that she was going through. She was battling cancer. She was on a lot of medication. There's just life, and she inspired me in so many different ways because she was such a strong individual. She had 3 kids. She was going through a divorce. She was in and out of work, and she's still maintaining her household, taking care of everything. And, I said to myself in that moment when she was kind of expressing some personal concerns of hers, I said, you need a platform. I said, that's what's wrong with us as a community. We don't like to talk about our problems. As I mentioned earlier, we're very private people. And so I said, if you were to, and I said, only if you're comfortable, decide to have an event where we only, we take it to people who want to be in an environment that's safe for them to share their experiences with whatever trauma, divorce, cancer, whatever the issue that's going on in their life. It's almost like, kind of like what people do when they're trying to get off of alcohol, like, alcohol addiction and things like that. We wanted to create a platform that was conducive to that type of response. And so we were successful in that. And she attended at least 3 events. But unfortunately, she became ill again this year. And due to COVID-19, it was just a really played out tragedy because the hospitals wouldn't let us visit her. And for 6 months, she stayed there straight, and unfortunately, she died there. So I love when people ask me about Sisters Talks because it's a way for her to live on through the organization. And I know my ultimate goal for her was just for her to heal spiritually and physically and mentally. And I can only pray that she did, And so what type of work we do, in addition to the events that we do, I also have an extension of that organization called the Sisters Talk Podcast. Some people may have heard of it. I like to interview people just like you, different small businesses. I want to expose people to financial awareness and different type of opportunities that you may come across because you never know what small business is hiring. You never know what professional is offering free services. So I like to interview people to kind of give the listeners and the community an option or an outlet to say, hey, remember you interviewed this person. Do you have their contact number? Of course. And I provide it, to them.
That's what it is about, being that resource out in the community. And so speaking of that, you also have another program that's like near and dear because it's so needed, and that's the Create Our Community organization. And so talk a little bit about that, and is it going on, and how do you get access to that program?
Sure. So, Creating Our Community Enrichment Program is a nonprofit organization that I established in 2014. For the first 2 or 3 years, I did a lot of work in Dallas, Texas with it. because the objective of it was to just provide tutoring for children who were super accelerated. And what I mean by that, there's a lot of young, especially a lot of young Black children who are extremely intelligent and they get bored. So that's the reason why they're not paying attention in class. So my motivation was to take a small group, maybe 5 to 10 students, and do some advanced math and science with them. Keep them busy and keep them challenged because unfortunately, and we all know this, our school districts and the curriculum that they have, I mean, they're still teaching children that Columbus discovered America. That's just how far behind we are with the school system. So I just wanted to be able to be that side piece to help revamp and recultivate the interest for students in school. Because honestly, I hate to say this, but our school systems, a lot of them are failing us and our children. And if we don't capture that attention of our youth now, where will we be in the next 10 to 20 years, next 30 years? And so also in addition to that, my nonprofit also gives back to the needy. So when I say needy, I'm talking about families that need assistance. You know, I donated a crib, baby clothes and items, things like that, right in the middle of COVID. I had no problem with it, and we'll do it again. Also, I have donations coming up November 15th, where we're collecting blankets, care items, food, everything. We're going to deliver these adult diapers to a senior community home right here in Houston. So there's just a lot of working arms, and shout out to my board members on my nonprofit. Without you, I could not do it.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome. That is awesome. So now, I know you said you were looking forward to young teens reading your book. So when we think of those young ladies coming up, what would you say to get them, one, into STEM, and to be mindful also of the experiences that you talk about in that book to kind of not do, you know, to stop someone from going down the same path?
Right. So bringing awareness to those young men and women is the first step. I didn't have anybody to bring awareness to me because I was the first out of my family to even take that path. I wasn't the first to go to college, but definitely the first to go to college for physics, you know. And that alone, being in physics in college, I was the only African-American female in every single class. I was definitely the minority. So all I would say to our young men and women growing up is that don't allow what you look like to stop what it is that's in your heart to do. If you have a true passion for something, you know, that not most people that look like you have a passion for it, that's fine. You just have to find it within you to ignore the negativity around you. It's almost like you have to have tunnel vision. And that tunnel vision at the end of that light should be your goals and your accomplishments that you want to achieve. And so if you can do that and you can stay tunnel vision with your vision that you have for your life, there's no doubt that you will be successful in any and everything that you do. Also, I would advise our young people to be an expert in the field that you decide to go in. You may not even go to college, but whatever it is, if it's a trade, if there's something that you're good at, you better make sure that you're the best at what you do. And that's going to require some discipline, which I didn't have any. I just happened to be pretty good with numbers. I lucked up, but I'm being honest. If I could do it again, I would do it again. I would have a lot more discipline. Right. And so with discipline comes so many wonderful things that you couldn't even imagine. So when you master something, one thing my grandfather always taught me growing up is they can take your house, they can take your car, somebody can take your spouse, they can take your dog, they can take everything, but they can never take what's inside here. So you got to work on educating yourself, and not just in that field. You got to educate yourself in life. That's what I would advise young people to do.
That's it. And so now, how do they contact you if they want to have you come out and speak, want to know more about the programs, but then also where can we find the book?
So right now, Female Minority Report is available on Amazon.com in both Kindle and paperback. So make sure you check it out. Kindle version is $9.99. Paperback is $12.99. And so you guys, if someone wants me for a speaking engagement, you can definitely reach me on my email at sistascwt@gmail.com, and I'll spell it out. It's SISTASCWT@gmail.com. or you can go to the website and shoot me an email from there at www.sisterstalk.org. That's SISTASTALK.org.
Man, awesome. I appreciate your time. And if you ever need a brother to talk, just let me know.
Yes. I'm definitely going to have you on. I just want to thank you so much, for allowing me to come onto the show today. And I would love to have you on at least once a month if you like. You just let me know.
I will see you soon.
Absolutely.
All right. This is KT for KT TV signing out. 100.